Morning, Key Stage 3. So today, myself, Mrs. Wright, will be taking you through your formal writing lesson in order for you to submit and produce a specific formal letter that your teacher will be marking this week. So what we are learning too is to be able to produce a formal letter for a specific audience and purpose. Our keywords are formal, structure, audience, and purpose. Now, you may remember from lessons in class, we have to edit our writing in order to suit our audience and to suit our purpose. So by the end of this lesson, you're going to understand the importance of vocabulary in formal writing. You are going to be able to identify the features of formal letter writing, and you will be able to begin to plan and write a formal letter. So I've mentioned the word, and one of our key words is formal. So what does it mean to be formal? And specifically, how can we be formal in a letter? I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about them two questions. So number one, what does it mean to be formal? And number two, how can we be formal in a letter? Okay, so the definition of formal is done in accordance with convention or etiquette, suitable for constituting an official or important occasion. So in English, when something is formal, it means that it's very correct and serious rather than relaxed or friendly, and is normally used in official situations. So, for example, your task now is to think about why might a formal letter be an appropriate form of communication. So if we think about friendly would be the way that we talk to our friends, our family, sometimes if you've got a relationship with your teacher, you might be more friendly because she's approachable, he or she's approachable. But when would you use formality instead of being friendly? So here's some examples when you might write a formal letter. So to make a complaint, or to show gratitude, so to thank someone for doing something well, maybe a teacher who's done a fabulous lesson. A letter or a job application, resignation from a job when you're handing in your notice. For business, if you want to request a meeting, formal invitations to events, to make a request, example for a sponsorship, you're doing a sponsored walk and you're writing a letter to the teachers expected high about why they should sponsor you, product or service, or if you are in school, so the student service team often write formal letters to parents to advise if you're going on a trip or to give them some information. So writing a formal letter. Today we are going to be thinking about what letters include, what their key features are, and hopefully it will give you enough information in order to write your own letter. So key questions: what is a letter and what do we need to include in them? Why do letters tend to be more formal, serious than informal? It can be argued that the importance of letters is dying out and the rise of email and online communication. Why do you think letters still might be important? So why would we choose to do a letter rather than send an email, for example? Okay. So you will need your Key Stage 3 workbook for the next task. You are going to turn to page 10 and you are going to look at how to use formal language in a formal letter. So there is a task in there on page 10 that you will need to complete and send in to your teacher. Now you can send that in via a picture or via a Google Doc or a Word doc or via email. It gives you some information of how to write a formal letter. So formal language is very important. So instead of saying, for example, I got, you would then in a formal letter say, I received. Instead of writing, we want you to, right? It is expected that you will. Try and avoid using shortened down words. So instead of saying can't, it's cannot, won't, and TV. Try to use the normal language and words that are associated. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through now what needs to be included in your letter that you will be submitting. So when you are communicating in a formal letter, you need to make sure that you are asking yourself and that you are including the 3 W's, okay? So, number 1, who am I writing to? That is your audience. Who are you sending the letter to? Why are you writing? So that would be your purpose. Why am I writing this letter? Number 3 would be, what do I need to get across? What is my message? Now that also is your purpose. If your purpose is to argue, persuade, advise, then it's really important that you appeal to your audience. So how can I get my ideas across as clearly as possible? You include all relevant details that you inform the reader. So facts. You could include, if it was, if you needed to, data, references, dates. You need an opening that explains your overall message. Then the main body would be what you want the audience to understand or what you're informing. But you need to also remember that you need just specific details. You are not writing lots and lots of unfriendly advice, so please no waffle, okay? The language side we've just kind of touched upon when you did the task in your writing booklet. Okay, so we're going to avoid contractions of can't, don't, want. We are going to make sure that we include normal words instead of abbreviations. So we're not going to include info or ad, it would be information and advertisements. We are going to use specific vocabulary, so making sure that our language is accurate and clear. And we are going to include all words. We're not going to include, so instead of saying look forward to hearing from you, we would be saying I look forward to hearing from you. Okay? We should also be including, in order to structure our letter effectively, connectives. Connectives allow us to structure a letter so that it has a clear introduction, a main body, and a conclusion. So, for example, we may start with dear and the audience that we are aiming it to. So, dear Mrs. Doward. We may start off with, I'm writing to inform you, but our main body should start with firstly, secondly, and then finally. Okay, so the format of a letter should always start with the address of the sender. It should be written in the top right-hand corner of the letter. The receiver should know where to write back to. Remember the postcode, or if you're abroad, the zip code, or it may end up in a different town. So you can see as an example here, I've got the address of where I'm sending the letter to in the top right-hand corner. Then in the left-hand corner, you will see that there is my address. So directly underneath that, it should be your address on the left-hand side with the date. So for example, the 10th of June, 2020. The third part of your letter should be, as we just discussed, the opening. So the purpose, the reason you are writing this letter. So after the address, the first step is to address the reader. Dear is almost always used. And if you are unsure of the name, gender of the person you are writing to, then you may put dear sir or madam, or to whom it may concern, okay? For the opening section of the letter, outline your main intention for writing. So detail your overriding points that you want to get across. So for example, I am writing to express my condemnation at my recent Johnson's holiday experience. I was extremely disappointed at almost every aspect of the holiday and shall be seeking at least a partial refund for the elements of the holiday that I feel were grossly missold. Number 4 would be the main body of your letter. So you're now into the part where you're going to detail and explain what your overall opening was about. So remember that this is supposed to be a formal letter. The topic and tone should remain to the point. As in verbal conversation, you need to remember that you are writing for a clear purpose and not simply to make a conversation. So to begin with, the taxi service that we were promised from the airport to the hotel arrived over 2 hours late. My family contains young children who are extremely restless after a long flight. To make them wait this long after such a journey is simply unacceptable. Okay, notice there the word unacceptable. We haven't used the word this is wrong because that would be an average vocabulary. We're going to say that this is unacceptable because it's a formal letter, so we're going to include formal vocabulary. Then we are going to add more to our body. We're going to put in a second and third paragraph. So what I told you before about the structure, we start with secondly, okay? Connectives are a good point because we can use firstly, secondly, furthermore, and then we can add to information that we're providing in this letter. The closing section of the letter should make some concluding comments. It should reflect upon what has been said or really spell out the key message of the letter. So you may also make a statement that looks to the future. For example, I'm looking forward to hearing from you, or I'm excited to see what the future holds. This example of a letter starts off with, overall, I was left feeling extremely unimpressed with my holiday experience. I trust that your response will offer me some form of recompense for the disastrous experience. Okay, so they've asked for some compensation and that they've said that they're waiting for a response. So we're looking to the future. Then finally, you're going to use your sign off. So if you do not know the name of the person you're writing to, then the correct way to sign off is say yours faithfully. If you do know the name of the person you are writing, you would use yours sincerely. Often there's a gap between the sign off and the printed name in order for the sender to write their signature. This is usually in business. So for today's task that you will be submitting to your teacher, you have the choice of 2 options. You are going to write your own formal letter using all the information that we've looked at today, language, structure, connectives, and you are going to write a formal letter to one of the following. You are going to write a formal letter to Mr. Boris Johnson in a response to the coronavirus update, or you are going to write a letter to Mrs. Doward about Stretford High School reopening. You may use one of the structure strips that are attached to this PowerPoint to organise your writing, but you can also use this PowerPoint and the example that we've looked at today to give you some help. Now, if you are stuck and you need some help, this next slide will help you. You need to start off with who your audience is. So that is rather Mrs. Doward or Mr. Johnston. Your opening should start with I am writing to, and your overall opening of what you want your audience to know in your letter. You are then going to do the main body. Firstly, I would like to address, and secondly, I feel strongly, and then you're going to do your conclusion. Finally, I firmly believe. There are some words in the word bank that may help you that are formal words that you can include. I would also like you, and your class teacher would like you, to use a range of punctuation and sentence types. The writing sheet, help sheet, is here to help you and gives you that example that we've looked at in today's lesson. Once you have finished, I would like you to self-reflect and look over your learning for this lesson and how do you feel you have achieved the learning objective. So give yourself 1 tick and 1 target for the future. remember our learning objective today was to be able to produce a formal letter for a specific audience and purpose. If you do need any help or support, myself, Mrs. Wright, will be in Google Meet when you have your lesson today, Wednesday, and I will be answering any questions that you need help or support with. Thank you.